You want to know the real me? Then come to my house. In high school, she was the beauty of our class, and with her honest eyes, she looked straight at me and whispered that. At our recent class reunion, she was the same as ever, hiding her face with her overgrown hair, but her beautiful eyes hadn't changed a bit. I was drawn into her beautiful eyes, silently nodding yes. I got on the train with her. In the quiet train car, only the sound of my heart beating echoed. I'm Daniel Miller, a 40-year-old single office worker. After graduating from college, I've been all about work, striving for promotions and working hard towards a stable life, aiming for management positions. Before I knew it, I was 40, and I had no girlfriend. The last time I was in love was in high school. Thanks to my friends who confessed on my behalf, I was able to date her. But our relationship never really progressed, and we broke up after just 3 months. With little romantic experience, now I'm 40 and still single. My colleague Matthew looks at me and says, I'll introduce you to someone nice, let's go out for drinks next time, and my mother has started recommending matchmaking to me. I've begun to feel pressured about marriage as more and more people around me suggest it. On my days off, I searched the internet for matchmaking services and thought about trying a free consultation. But is there really a young woman who would choose a 40-year-old like me? With that thought, I just can't seem to take any positive action. Then one day, I received an invitation to a high school reunion. Excited to see old friends and hoping for a good match with fellow single classmates, I decided to attend the reunion. Then, the day of the reunion arrived in a flash. It was a letdown, as all the classmates who attended were already married. Our child finally made it to middle school, so I've recently switched from part-time to full-time. My kid's in 5th grade now, and more children around us are taking lessons. They're going to cram school and piano lessons, so we're cutting back and saving money. My classmates were busy talking about their children's latest news. I couldn't keep up with the conversation and ate my meal alone, feeling out of place. Then, a little late, a woman entered the pub where the reunion was held. With her face hidden by her long hair, she sneaked into a corner of the venue with an attitude that said, "Don't look at me." Her suspicious, almost thief-like gestures drew everyone's attention. What's up with her? Was she in our high school class? Some whispered, while others stood up saying, I'm curious, I'll go talk to her. Then, approached by curious classmates, she peeked out from her long hair, looking frightened. Hey, isn't that Lily Martinez? A classmate who had been watching from afar spoke up. Lily was the class beauty when she transferred to our school in 10th grade. She was half Spanish and a returnee, with beautiful olive skin and brown eyes. Good at both studies and sports. She was approached by several boys who all ended up getting turned down. Her beautiful olive skin and brown eyes were just as striking as before, peeping out from her long hair. But she seemed like a completely different person, with everything about her appearance and personality changed in a negative way. The once friendly and well-liked girl, who spoke to everyone, was nowhere to be seen. She seemed incredibly scared, unable to make eye contact with anyone. She was utterly isolated from the space where old friends were enjoying themselves. Her hair was overgrown, tangled in places, and mixed with gray, a far cry from her glamorous image back then. Some classmates courageously asked her, "What happened? What's going on?" But she remained silent and looked down, no matter who spoke to her. Awkwardness won over, and the classmates began to avoid her as the reunion continued. The women were getting excited talking about their husbands and children's antics. The men were drinking and reminiscing about the old days. It was as if she was just huddled alone in the corner of the room, unseen by anyone's eyes. Why did she come here in the first place? What happened to her after she graduated from high school? Questions about her kept popping into my mind, and all I could see were her eyes. I was terribly worried about her. The reunion came to an end, and everyone started preparing for the after party. Let's go for karaoke for the after party. What? We're not kids anymore. The after party should be at a bar. You're still going to drink. Enough with the booze already. What? We can drink at karaoke, right? Amidst the chatter of classmates about the after party, she was quietly leaving. Naturally drawn to follow her, I'm stopped by a classmate asking, "Which do you prefer, bar or karaoke?" I replied, "Sorry, I have a meeting early tomorrow for work, so I have to go home early," and pursued her. She was headed to the station with light steps, slipping through the crowd. I chased her hard, but was out of breath, feeling as though everything was going dark in front of me. Am I out of shape because I only do desk work, or is it my age? I thought about various things as I finally caught up with her. Catching my breath on the platform, I nervously approached her. "Lily, do you remember me? I'm Daniel. We were together in our sophomore year in high school," but she remained silent. "Is your home in this direction? I'm going that way too. Let's go back together." I desperately talked to her, who didn't say a word. Maybe I should give up if she doesn't respond. But I just couldn't leave her alone. If I give up talking to her now, she might just vanish somewhere far away. And in some unknown city, she might quietly disappear without catching anyone's eye. It might be an exaggeration, but that's the concern I felt when looking at her back. She remained silent even as I kept talking to her. However, as if she had been defeated by my persistence, her brown eyes peeked out from her long hair. "You really want to know the real me? Then come to my house." She stared at me with her straight eyes, whispering so. I was drawn into her beautiful eyes and silently nodded yes. A train arrived at the station, cutting through the tense air. I boarded the train with her, and only the sound of my heartbeat echoed in the quiet car. I was indeed worried about her, but to be suddenly invited to her home. Sweat flowed down my forehead, and my hands trembled with tension. The train quickly arrived at her nearest station, and I followed her without a word. She led me to a one-room apartment that seemed to be quite old, possibly 40 or 50 years old. Once we reached her home, my nervousness turned into hesitation. "It's rude to barge in suddenly, so let's talk here," I said to her, and instead of entering, we stood talking in the dimly lit entrance of the apartment. "Why did you talk to me like this?" she asked with a cold voice, and I replied gently. "I was curious. You seem to have difficulty talking to people, so why did you come to the reunion?" Then she began to tell me, in a slow and careful voice, why she came to the reunion and about her past. I really didn't want to go to the reunion, but my mom told me to go and say hello to my high school teacher. Saying so, she shed tears of frustration. "Why your mom? Was there a connection with the teacher?" I dug deeper into her story without any hesitation. She answered my question seriously. "My mom is a Spanish, and she came to America when she was in high school. She didn't understand English, and the then new teacher taught her English after school. My high school teacher was a veteran English teacher who was about to retire at the time. The teacher is now 80 years old at the time when we turned 40. I can see the image of a teacher who, though elderly, was happily reuniting with former students at the recent class reunion. The teacher had also been the mentor of her mother, Jessica, so she was told, 'You must go to the reunion and greet the teacher,' and forced her to drive there, which she did not want to do. It's pathetic, isn't it, that I can't even go to the reunion on my own without being dragged by my mom." Saying this, she suddenly turned the collar of her blouse, tears streaming down her face as she blushed in shame. I was taken aback by her sudden action. But what caught my eye was shocking. Spreading from her collarbone down were the painful scars of burns. The itch and sore scratches and red spots were clearly visible, even in the dark entrance. "What happened? These scars?" I asked in confusion, and she responded with a dark face. In my 20s, my ex-boyfriend who I was living with cheated on me. That night, we fought because of it, and he angrily poured boiling water from a kettle on me while I was asleep. I was speechless, frozen, and she broke down in tears and screamed. I've been so depressed about these scars, I can't do anything. I quit my job, and I'm barely getting by on money from my parents. Relatives and friends who see me say, I don't know what to say to you. I hate this life. When she screamed like that, I suddenly recalled the scene at the reunion. All of our classmates didn't know how to deal with her and ultimately ignored her. No one thought about how much of an insult this attitude was to her. But I was really concerned about her, and on the way home from the reunion, I talked to her. Even if she ignored me, I kept talking. Why did I do that? Because she was my first love. She was the prettiest in the class and was out of reach for me, and I couldn't confess my feelings and date her. Only the popular and outgoing guys in our circle would ever confess to her. I sealed away my feelings for her. Later, I dated another girl who had confessed to me. I feel sorry for what I did to her. Though I had feelings for someone else, I couldn't love her. Eventually, we broke up quickly. After that, I met various girls, but what always came to mind was the sparkling lily of my youth. I could never forget her. The reason I've remained single until now is something I've never told or consulted with anyone about. But I was sure when I saw her again. The reason I've been working so hard all these years is that deep down, I've been waiting for the day I could reunite with her. That's why I was so curious when I saw her. And even though she ignored me, I kept talking. Suddenly, I felt as if a great mystery had been solved, and I felt a clearing in my heart. It was a moment when I could look at my feelings that I hadn't wanted to see until now. I firmly grasped her crying shoulder and told her, even with the scars from the burns, your beauty hasn't disappeared. But she still looked worried, saying, but because of this, I lost my job, and my life is ruined. Just because you work hard doesn't guarantee a prosperous life. Look at me, still single at this age, and my parents are already worried about me dying alone. I smiled wryly, and she smiled too. Oh, already worrying about dying alone? No offense, but your parents seem a bit premature. Right? They're rushing things. Life's just beginning, I think. You can't get pessimistic and down now. When I said this, she smiled and said, I'm glad I talked to you. I feel a bit brighter now. Apparently, talking and laughing with someone was something she hadn't done in a while. Her smile was as beautiful and enchanting as it had been in high school. I said goodbye to her that day and went home. The next day and the day after, I worried about her and started visiting her apartment. I bought pastries and sandwiches, and awkwardly cooked stew and brought it to her in containers. Before I knew it, I was visiting her house often, watching her stuff her face with my cooking, exclaiming, delicious. One day, she thanked me again. I remember the serious look on your face, Daniel, when you talked to me after the reunion. I felt like I could confide in you about my scars since you seemed to really care about me. I was told that by her and my face turned red. I'm glad my seriousness got through to you. I said awkwardly. She smiles at me, saying, thank you for always caring about me. As the days went by and I met her more often, she naturally showed me a smile like the old days more and more. I can't help but feel embarrassed when I receive her smiles and sudden words of gratitude. I love and adore her, but when I gaze into her beautiful eyes, the embarrassing feelings of adolescence return, and my embarrassment wins. I felt that it would still take some time before I could move forward with dating her. But it's okay for us to go at our own pace. I secretly vowed to myself not to rush our relationship. 3 years have passed since then, and we are dating. We are in the process of talking about getting married. Hey, I want the ceremony to be like this. What do you think? She says, showing me a pamphlet of a wedding in San Francisco. featuring a woman in a traditional white wedding dress. Sounds great, I smile. She also smiles, saying, "So, shall we decide on this?" I want to continue watching her smile like that, forever by her side.